St. Paul. Christianity was originally a Jewish reform movement. As Jesus himself affirmed, in Matthew 5:17, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets, I have not come to abolish them but to fulfill them." Christianity only became a new religion when it was transformed into a variation of the mystery cults by St. Paul, c. 5, c. 64 or 67. Paul came into conflict with Jesus' immediate followers, who composed the early Church of Jerusalem. Also known as Nazarenes, they were headed by James, the brother of the Lord, and strictly followed the laws of Orthodox Judaism. Paul's rejection of Jewish law was mainly concerned with the requirement of circumcision. Robert Eisenman, a well-known expert on the Dead Sea Scrolls, speculates that in pushing forward this issue, Paul was acting in the service of the house of Herod, for whom circumcision was a particular impediment to expanding dynastic alliances with non-Jewish families. According to Eisenman, a series of events form part of several suspicious instances that seem to reinforce the point that Paul, originally named Saul, was an agent of the house of Herod. 40 Eisenman also points out that there is reference in Josephus to a member of the Herodian family named Saulus, which was not a common name in the period. This Saulus is not only the intermediary between the men of power, the Herodians, the principal of the Pharisees, the chief priests, and all those desirous for peace, in other words, peace with the Romans, but Josephus also describes him as a kinsman of Agrippa. Likewise, in Romans 16:11 Paul writes, "Greet Herodion, my kinsman." Bertel-Gartner traces the parallels between the Masonic imagery of St. Paul's teaching and the Essene texts, noting that Paul likened himself to a skilled master builder who laid the foundations of this spiritual edifice. 41 The Gospel of John features numerous Gnostic influences, and according to Timo Eskola in Messiah and the Throne, Jewish Merkabah mysticism and early exaltation discourse, Christian theology and discourse was also influenced by early Kabbalistic mysticism. Chaim Maccoby in The Mythmaker proposes that Paul synthesized Judaism, Gnosticism, and mysticism to create Christianity as a cosmic savior religion. Alan Siegel and Daniel Boyarin regard Paul's accounts of his conversion experience and his ascent to the heavens as the earliest first-person accounts of a Merkabah mystic in Jewish or Christian literature. In Paul the Convert, Siegel shows that Paul makes extensive use of the language of Merkabah, such as purporting that believers will be changed into Christ's likeness, as believed by the Jewish mystics, for whom seeing the glory of God prepared the way for the transformation into his image. Valentinus, head of the Valentinians, chief among the early Gnostic sects, claimed that he received from Theudas, a disciple of Paul, initiation into a secret doctrine of God. This secret wisdom, which Paul taught to only a select few, revealed that God, the one whom most Christians ignorantly worship as Creator, is in reality only the image of the true God. According to Valentinus, the Orthodox preachers mistakenly ascribed to God what actually applies only to the demiurge. 42 Whoever achieves this gnosis is ready to receive the secret sacrament called redemption, meaning release, or freedom from moral obligation. Elaine Pagels points out in the Gnostic Paul. Instead of repudiating Paul as their obstinate opponent, the Nazarenes and Valentinians revere him as the one of the apostles who, above all others, was himself a Gnostic initiate. The Valentinians, in particular, allege that their secret tradition offers direct access to Paul's own teaching of wisdom and gnosis. According to Clement, they say that Valentinus was a hearer of Theudas, and Theudas, in turn, a disciple of Paul. 43. Paul understood the resurrected Jesus as a mystical figure, the archetypal man. The original man, or archetypal man, formed before the human or earthly man, is the true image of God, the beginning of creation and the Lord of it. Paul says, So it is written, the first man Adam became a living soul, the last Adam, a life-giving spirit. The spiritual did not come first, but the natural, and after that the spiritual. The first man was of the dust of the earth, the second man from heaven. 44. The hidden wisdom of Paul is related to the secret mystery of Sophia, that is, to the passion, fall, and restoration of Sophia, the pattern for the passion, crucifixion, and resurrection of Christ. However, we speak wisdom Sophia among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this age Aeon, nor of the archons of this age, that come to naught, but we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before in the presence of the aeons, divine beings dwelling with the Father in the pleroma unto glory, which none of the archons of this age knew, for had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. 45. Aeons has many meanings in Greek, including age, space, or a spiritual being governing a vast space or dimension either in the heavens, pleroma, or below. According to the Valentinian school of theology, which inherited its teaching from Paul, the aeon of this cosmos refers to a usurper god, called the demiurge, the evil creator god, the Bible's Yahweh. Valentinian theologians claimed that, according to Paul, portions of the Mosaic Code and the Old Testament contained ordinances which derived from a usurper god and not from the highest God, whom they identified as the Father of Jesus. Archon is the Greek word for ruler, and the power of the air is identified with the devil by Valentinians. The Archon was known in the 1st and 2nd century under many names, including Eel-Dabaoth, Saklas, or Samuel. Suspiciously, after Paul was arrested in Jerusalem and rescued from a plot against his life, the local Roman Chiliarch transferred him to Caesarea, where he stood trial before Antonius Felix, the procurator of Judea, who was also closely associated with the Herodians. Felix had married Drusilla after she had divorced Azizus. Felix, who was reputed to be a very cruel and lustful man, was originally a slave, but was manumit and promoted by Caesar, and appointed governor of Judea in 52 AD, where he stayed in office until 58 AD. Felix had first been married to another Drusilla, the daughter of King Ptolemy of Mauritania, the grandson of Mark Antony and Cleopatra, before the later Drusilla. In service to Felix, this Drusilla had been convinced to leave her husband by the notorious Simon Magus, who was a Samaritan sorcerer and a convert to Christianity, considered the first of the Gnostics, baptized by Philip the Evangelist, whose later confrontation with Peter is recorded in Acts 46. Following an unsuccessful conspiracy among 40 Jews to assassinate Paul, the Romans hustled him away in the night, accompanied by 200 soldiers, to Felix in Caesarea. Before Felix, Paul was merely asked from which province he had come. 5 days later, members of the Sanhedrin appeared, and made charges, which Paul denied. 47 Felix delayed the proceeding further until Claudius Lysias, the captain of the Roman troops in Jerusalem, could come to give evidence. After a few days, Felix's wife, Drusilla, the Jewess, wanted to see and hear Paul. Paul appeared and gave the gospel to Felix and Drusilla. Felix trembled but was unrepentant. Felix and Drusilla would later on frequently send for Paul and talk with him. Felix wanted a bribe from Paul, so did not acquit him. Felix kept Paul a prisoner in Caesarea, under loose house arrest, for 2 years until the arrival of Festus, the new governor. Festus arranged for Paul to present his case to Herod Agrippa II and his sister Berenice, before whom Paul exercised his right as a Roman citizen to appeal unto Caesar. Finally, Paul and his companions sailed for Rome, where Paul was to stand trial for his alleged crimes. Eisenman makes note that it is very unlikely that Paul could have made the miraculous escapes without the support of the Herodians and their Roman sponsors. as in, for example, the attack on Paul in the temple, and his rescue by Roman soldiers witnessing these events from the fortress of Antonia. 48. This episode, too, makes mention of a nephew and possibly a sister of Paul, resident in Jerusalem, but also presumably carrying Roman citizenship, who warn him of a plot by zealots for the law to kill him. Without this kind of intervention, Paul could never have enjoyed the protection he does in Caesarea, and retired to Rome in such security. According to several church fathers and apocryphal books, Paul was beheaded in Rome by orders of Nero.